Yep. But listen, we got all of these people snapping off. They're getting sick and tired of the lockdowns. Joe Biden saying the lockdowns not going to stop.
Yeah.
He said we're going to listen to the science, and his science advisor says, what did he say? 6 months. Then we got Bill Gates and Fauci saying 2022. Mm-hmm. Now we got this from The Guardian. The World Health Organization warns COVID-19 pandemic is not necessarily the big one. Experts tell end-of-year media briefing that virus is likely to become endemic and the world will have to learn to live with it. Now, does that mean that we're all going to chill out, reduce the lockdowns, take some precautions, maybe get a vaccine? Or does it mean we're locked down forever? I'll tell you, I think it's locked down forever.
I mean, they've shown that not when I say it works, not that it actually helps in mitigating whatever spread. It works is in the fact that they can control you. They know that they can do that. That's a thing that they can do. They can shut everything down and do whatever it is that they want, and that's what they were allowed to do. So I think that is what people are going to see as a new normal, because unfortunately even a decade ago, it's just unreal. Could you just imagine someone being like, yeah, there's going to be this virus that it's like a 99.9% survival rate, and we're going to shut not just this country down, but multiple countries down. Could you imagine?
We're just going to shut down the small businesses and allow the big corporate buddies to be open.
That will transfer.
And you can still go out and dance for Biden.
Yeah, and you can, of course, protest for Black Lives if that's your thing as well. That's also on the table. But no, like they recognize that it works, and the people that are in control, for whatever reason, the people that we listen to, whether they're a health expert or not. I mean, Bill Gates. I mean, I'm always seeing him on TV lecturing us about this issue as well. But that's what it is that they want. This is why I say, like, civil disobedience, man, is like, I know I got called a conspiracy theorist very early on in this pandemic when I talked about, like, dude, if you idiots think that it's just going to be 2 weeks, I'm sorry. We know that there's no such thing as a temporary government program. They're going to kick the can down the road again, and they still didn't listen.
I gotta stop you, Eric, and this misinformation, or I shouldn't say misinformation. I should say, how dare you criticize Bill Gates? It is a long-standing tradition in this country to turn to software developers for their expertise in epidemiology. It's true. Now, Bill Gates, who's more qualified than to talk about a virus than a guy who made a bunch of computer programs? There's viruses on computers.
Different kind of virus.
There you go. No, virus, same word, right? I wonder how many people who hate me are going to take that out of context.
Oh,
look how dumb Tim is. anyway, look. Here's the main point with the story, though. They're just saying it's going to get worse, right? You guys remember that V for Vendetta scene where the chancellor is like, "I want them to know why they need us," and then it shows all the news clips playing. And there's like the guy in the bar and he's watching the story and he goes, "Do you believe this bollocks?" And like people are shaking their head at it. So I see these stories where they're like, COVID will keep mutating. It will only get worse. And we don't know if the vaccine's going to help. And now we got a couple stories I want to show you to exemplify this. The first one is this one from the New York Times. Small number of COVID patients develop severe psychotic symptoms. Most had no history of mental illness and became psychotic weeks after contracting the virus. Cases are expected to remain rare, but are being reported worldwide. All right, there's one more story I got to show you, but I got a question for this. When those people got Bell's palsy, they said, but only a few people got Bell's palsy from the vaccine. It's not a big deal. So a couple people get psychotic symptoms, and they think it's major New York Times published a story, boom, breaking. I see the story, and at this point, I'm just like, are you kidding me, dude? Yep. They're saying COVID causes blood clots, your feet scab up, you can't breathe forever, infertility, your heart stops, and you go psychotic. It does all these things. Calm down, man. If that's true, then we're in serious trouble, right? But to be fair, okay, maybe it is true. That's why they're all freaking out. Okay, but it kind of does feel like they're just inundating with this stuff, and that's exemplified by this next story. From ABC News, nurse tests positive for COVID-19 shortly after getting vaccinated. You mean to tell me they get the vaccine and then 8 days later they get sick and they say this scenario isn't unexpected. Here's how it could have happened. Now maybe they already had the virus before getting the vaccine. But I'll tell you what this story is. More fear. I'm sorry, the vaccine. Why is ABC News telling us the vaccine? They're putting out the story that questions whether the vaccine is going to work. They want us terrified so that we just give in and say, do whatever you want, government, shut everything down forever, and let people just wallow in it.
That's exactly what they want. But I mean, look, this is why it was so important that no matter where you were at on this issue, I mean, I understand there was a lot of people that were freaking out early on. Like, you didn't know much about the virus. Okay, let's just say for the sake of conversation, though the numbers were out coming out of South Korea and even China, they said the same thing. Believe them or not, they actually said the same thing as far as who it impacted, how deadly it actually was. But that's why it was so important there to say no. Like, you had to do it then, because if you didn't do it then, you showed them. You showed the state. You showed the whether it be local governments, the governors, every congresswoman and man. You showed them that that's all that it takes is to scare you. That's all. When do they report good news? Wouldn't it be fantastic news for them to say, yeah, the vast, and when I say vast majority of people that catch this, like, it's not even close. Like, the vast majority of that catch this will never have to go to the hospital, and they will never get severely sick. That's not my opinion. Their own data says
most
that.
Importantly, you brought up a very important point before, saying that there's too many things going for the elites for them to stop this. They're benefiting off of this too much. And then also, when you look at V for Vendetta, it is eerily very similar to what's happening right now. And just to remind you, in V for Vendetta, it's where the government created a virus and used it to seize power over its people. And there was one incident of police brutality that sparked a national protest and led a larger revolt against the government. That was V for Vendetta.
Wait. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
That's what's freaky.
Yeah.
What happens on January 6th? We'll talk about this in greater detail. Like, I don't want to derail the conversation, but let me just say, man, what happens on January 5th when the Democrats win in Georgia, assuming they do, and then all these Trump supporters here, the Democrats now control everything, and they're in D.C. and they're angry. They got nothing to lose. They're desperate. Their property's gone. Their businesses are gone. Their savings is gone. I'll tell you this, man. It's all tied together. It's just like V for Vendetta, where he says, I could see it all tied together, like, web or whatever. You've got people. I remember watching a video. Wait. Let me slow down. I went to a bunch of Trump rallies, 2015, 2016, and I met a bunch of people who were voting for Trump. Some of them were Bernie Sanders supporters. When the Democrats gave it to Hillary, took it from Bernie, some of them went to Trump. They said because Bernie and Trump were the only ones talking about the trade agreements and bringing back these jobs. I remember talking to one dude who was probably like early 50s, and he was saying, this was in Janesville, Wisconsin, and he was talking about how his job was gone overseas. And Trump's talking about bringing these factories back and bringing back, his livelihood, his town, and that's what he's voting for. And then I remember seeing a video from a couple years, like a year and a half or so into Trump's presidency. It was a dude crying. He was like a middle-aged guy crying, saying, before Trump, I lost my job. My savings has completely diminished. The college fund for my kids was we were eating into it. And I knew that not only was I on the verge of not giving my kids a future, we were on the verge of homelessness until Trump came in and started putting in these rules, these tariffs, negotiating these trade agreements. And then these companies start coming back to my area. He's like, now I'm working again. Now I'm saving again. Now I know that I have my safety net back, and it's thanks to Donald Trump. And the guy was in tears, not bawling his out like crying, but he was like, his tears coming down his face where he's like, thank you, Donald Trump. You've saved my life. I can't believe it. I imagine that video, and I've talked about that one so many times over the past several years, as one guy having his life turn around, or the people in Michigan when the car factory started coming back and reinvesting in the Detroit area. Now those people are being told it's all being taken away from you. Remember that episode of South Park where Cartman gets $1 million? You ever see that one? He gets $1 million and he buys a theme park with it. And then Kyle is all like, why? It's not fair. God, why would you give Cartman, the worst person in the world, $1 million? But then Cartman loses the $1 million and he's miserable and he's crying and he's screaming. I'm not trying to equate the hardworking people to Eric Cartman. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying you have people who are desperate. And Donald Trump comes in, and in 2019, we get the best economy of our lives. So says Jim Cramer, if you take his word for it. These people are getting their jobs back. They're getting back on track. Then COVID hits. The Democrat governors destroy everything, shut it all down, take away your job, take away your property, your chance at life. And now you're going backwards. Now we got CNBC story says they interviewed 100 investors, like wealth management funds. 2/3 believe under Biden, the economy is going to tank, or it's going to start going down. It's going to get bad. Now these people are watching everything being stripped away. Are they going to show up in D.C. and are they going to be really, really angry? Kind of think so.
I mean, it can go either way, but until people, I don't see this issue being resolved until people really understand what the hell is going on. It's not just, I get it. You thought Trump was the nuke in the system. I'd never assumed that, never thought that he was, never supported him. I mean, I could say that for any politician for that matter. But the idea that these institutions continue to grow in power, and that includes Trump, with his executive orders, that's going to set the scene up, precedent being set for Joe Biden to come and basically do the same thing, just may not be working out to these people's benefit. So this is why if it keeps going that route, the most peaceful way is, to me, a separation. Like this idea that we all have to share this one government, though we hate each other to this point, makes no sense whatsoever. This is why they're control freaks. They're control freaks. It's not about people being free. I don't care what dumb crap they throw out there, acting as if they give a crap about someone being free and liberty and all these concepts, no matter what side of the political spectrum that they claim to be on. The issue here is that these folks have this power, right? This territorial monopoly, right, on use of force, violence, and ultimate decision making, and they say we want that, and we want to implement that. We want to utilize that to implement these crazy things that you see going on, shutting folks down, doing whatever it is, and it's always claiming to be benefiting the people that are around them. This is why I say at some point maybe this isn't working. Now that doesn't mean even once we split we can't have a deal that says, okay, you got my back, I got yours, but we're not sharing a government. It makes no sense for us to share a government.
Well, weeks ago I was talking about this and talking about a peaceful divorce, and people were like, you're crazy. Now I see more and more people talking about it, because when you look at the government, it really looks like there's elements that are trying to take away people's ability to fend for themselves.
Absolutely.
Especially with the latest news from the IRS today that is planning a 50% increase in audits of small businesses.
Small
businesses, yes. The IRS is literally hiring additional staff right now to conduct 50% more audits on small businesses, literally wiping out anyone who survived and was left over.
That's unbelievable.
To get their again. Meanwhile, Amazon, Walmart allowed to be open. They barely pay any taxes themselves.
Sure. But how many audits do they do per year on small businesses?
I got to look at the. I don't know,
because I think the important question is what if they only do 10 audits?
I highly doubt
I'm just saying. Yeah. What if out of we got 100, we got 225 working people in this country. How many of them own small businesses? It's an important question to ask. How many audits do they do? Because 50%, that's a percentage. Either way, I think it's.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem is like they're going after the little guy.
I don't want to defend the IRS.
I know. No, the idea is obviously that they're going after the little guy after the little guys have been utterly destroyed this past year. That's what they've been doing. So I get it. I totally understand why someone would, look at that, and I hate the IRS, and look at that and be like, hey man, what are y'all doing? But no, like there's something wrong with this, and the minute I can get Americans to understand that, the better off we're going to be. But a lot of them are control freaks. A lot of them just want, it's not about liberty. It's about more so control. So I want to be able to force that person on the other side of the aisle to do what I want them to do. And they can't see a world where it's like, okay, why don't you go do that? And I'm just going to go do that. That sounds crazy.
This is the thing, right? You got states like Wyoming. That's the most Trump state in the country. Granted, they only have like 550 million people, 550,000 people, not million, in the state. That'd be a massive state, by the way. No, 550,000 people in that state. So it's not the biggest. It's the most Trump support of any state. And then I think West Virginia. It doesn't make sense that they're going to pass, Joe Biden wants to ban all online sales of ammo, accessories, and guns. I'm like, well, that might make sense for New York. We talked about it. What do you do if someone's breaking into your little concrete cubicle that smells like sour milk? Maybe it doesn't make sense to fire, 5.56, which might go through the wall. But people might do it if they just have it. So then there's questions about density. But if you're in West Virginia, if you're in Wyoming, it definitely makes sense to have, an AR-15 when you're dealing with animals. In fact, I don't even know, depending on which AR you're using, what kind of ammo can use. Might not even be able to actually stop a large bear or some animal that's attacking your home. You might need some serious firepower for that. So in New York, they're like, these politicians say, we need to ban all these guns. How stupid must you be to have like a 458, SOCOM or 450 Bushmaster or something in New York City? And then somebody who's in the middle of the wilderness is like, are you nuts? I definitely need that stopping power.
And that's the
why
thing.
Is that law going to affect them?
Right, but that's the problem. Like, why do we have this setup where everybody can pack up, whether it be in Washington or wherever they're at, and they can vote in laws, or rather legislation that can impact people in Wyoming. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sort of sense when you break it down like that. But we just for the longest have accepted it like that's what it is. I think right now what we're seeing is how much of a problem it actually is when you get people that are ruled over by folks that they hate. So that, like, we saw that definitely over the last 4 years, how the leftists just went utterly insane because the guy, never mind, he's actually probably more like them than any Republican president before. Right. They don't even understand that. But just
that's why they hate him.
Maybe that's they see an image of themselves, coming into fruition. But no, that's the problem, and I think that we have to realistically talk about that as a legitimate solution. Like, why does it have to be that we all share this particular government? And it's a lot easier. We accept the idea that it's a lot easier for Americans to fight the like federal government as opposed to, let's say, the United Nations or something like that. And it's obviously a lot easier for me being out of Texas to fight the Texas government as opposed to the federal government. Why is it that we all have to share this government? It's just because we don't.
Yeah, exactly. I'll put it this way, right? There's definitely too much federalization happening. Because we could have one federal government so long as the states had, more guarantees and more protections. The problem is the battle is increasingly over the national control. Nobody cares about their local politicians. Their city falls to crap. And so they talk about voting for someone for Congress. And I'm like, but Congress is federal voting, not local. Yeah. You want someone to clean up your state. Vote for your state representatives. You want better representation where you live, and you got to vote locally.
And that's why I think that the complete removal of that would have people focusing, like people be more narrowly focused on what's around them as opposed to acting like Bernie Sanders is going to save their life.
But that's how it used to be. It used to be that the president was chosen, for the most part,
this is a figurehead.
The legislature of the states ultimately, were deciding who was going to be the elector for the state, and that the senators were voted on by, I believe it was the legislature. It was appointment essentially. They started changing these rules to make it more about popular vote, to make America more of one federalized nation than individual states. It doesn't work in the long run, and it doesn't work in Europe either. The crazy thing is, we've been a country for a lot longer than the European Union's been around. But one of the biggest problems, because I've been all over Europe, and I hear from a lot of people in Spain. I've been to Spain, I've been to Germany, I've been to the Netherlands, I've been to the UK, I've been to France. They tell me at Greece, one of the challenges, I was in Greece, and I was asking this dude, he was an Uber driver, and he was talking about how the economy is really, really bad. It's really hard to make any money. And I was like, but can't you just move to like London? And he goes, I'm Greek. I don't want to move to London. And I was like, but it's the EU. You could go and the jobs are better. And they're like, no, I'm Greek, man. I'm not British. They don't view themselves the same way. They don't want to live under the same rules. They want to eat the same food. They're very different people.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
Right. But that's But
just to finish my point, in the U.S., it's very, very similar. Yeah. People in West Virginia want to go hunting with their gigantic
It's a different
rifles.
place. I know you can say this because you've traveled, and I know you especially, Luke. Mm-hmm. We can all say this for those of us that travel. You can be in even certain parts of a state, and it's like night and day. Like I lived in Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi is nothing like Dallas-Fort Worth. For those of you, for those of you that don't know, and unfortunately, because of this hyper emphasis on like, they talk about this diversity thing, right? And it has nothing to do with thought or anything like that. What they really want is this different colors and different genders of people saying the same thing.
Yes,
right. That's exactly what they want. But where I've been, it's gotten me in trouble a lot. Like, I embrace those differences. There's nothing wrong with the fact that people on that side of the country, they just act different. They're culturally different. What they value is a little different. So again, why is it that we're trying to do this one? That was the problem with COVID. We saw this. It was a one size fits all approach. Why are we treating New York? I mean, at some point it was kind of a shift, but why was New York being treated like Texas? Like, it's not the same. Like, they don't, how they live, even in New York, like upstate versus New York City, they're not the same.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.